What's going on? Welcome to the 5-Minute Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Colton Olson, and on this podcast, we spend about 5 minutes, I say about 5, give or take a couple sometimes, breaking down and teaching you to apply psychological concepts that world-class athletes, CEOs, coaches, and elite military units use to take their performance to the next level. The key word here is apply. I don't want you to come here and just get a bunch of information and not know how to use it. I want you to leave here every day feeling like you have something in your hands that you can use right away to improve your life. Let's get to it. Today's topic comes from a book called The Alchemist, written by Paulo Coelho. So The Alchemist is a really famous book, and it comes highly recommended by tons of successful people. It's on a number of different lists, ranking the best books ever written, and it's even one of only 9 books to ever sell over 100 million copies. So it's the real deal. Regardless of that, I was hesitant about it at first, like I am with most books, but it ended up being even better than I thought it was going to be. I sat down, I read it straight through in one day, and had pages of notes highlighting all the nuggets I found. But maybe the most impactful lesson in the whole book was the very first thing I highlighted. It's a part in the book where there's this wise older man, and he's talking to a young boy. And he looks at the young boy and he says, "The world's greatest lie is this, that at a certain point in our lives, we lose control of what's happening to us, and our lives become controlled by fate. That's the world's greatest lie." This quote stopped me for a couple of reasons. First of all, we've all believed a number of different lies throughout our lives. We might still be believing some. And these lies come in different forms. Some are labels we were given by teachers, coaches, or parents when we were young. You might have been told you aren't creative, you're socially awkward, you're just an average athlete, you're not smart enough to pursue a high-paying job, you're lazy, or maybe they said you're going to have a hard time being independent. And other lies, they're ideas or beliefs, like we saw with the quote from The Alchemist. We might think our abilities in certain areas are limited and that one day we can't get any better. We sometimes believe that feelings of nervousness or anxiety are always bad, or that our future is largely determined by other people or forces outside ourselves. Like most things, these lies, they usually sneak into our lives in harmless fashion. They come up in casual conversations or after we engage in a certain activity. Then they stick with us because they hold true once or twice. You might have been in a group project and someone said, I don't think you're going to be the creative person in this group. Why don't you just handle some of the writing, right? And then you handle the writing and you're decent at it, so you stick with it, right? And after we see these labels or beliefs come to life once or twice, we start to live them out, and they eventually shape the life we live. So the second reason I really like this quote is because I feel like I've seen it a lot in the people around me. I see a lot of people buy into this lie in their own lives. So when most people are around high school or college age, they're really ambitious, they're excited about their life, and they believe they have lots of potential. But then they start to get older, maybe they start working a job, and they slowly start to surrender to this idea that they are what they are, and that they start to coast. And they more or less take a knee and decide the game is over. Then more time goes on, the ambition goes away, they don't believe in their own potential anymore, they become less happy, and they might even start to resent people around them that are ambitious or excited about their lives. They surrender, and they buy into this idea that their life is outside of their control. So even though this quote comes from a fiction book, it absolutely remains true in many people's lives. And if you want to be at your best and accomplish great things, you absolutely cannot buy into this lie. And that's proven in psychology. So research has shown for a while now that people who end up being successful or are high performers almost always embody 2 beliefs. The first one is growth mindset. And we've talked about growth mindset here before, but it is a non-negotiable if you want to perform at your best. Having a growth mindset just means that you believe your abilities aren't limited, that with appropriate practice and appropriate effort, you can always improve your skills. So to be great, you have to embrace that. The second belief high performers have is that they attribute their successes and their failures to their own actions, aka they understand that there is no one or nothing else responsible for their lives but them. They are in control of where their life goes. And that doesn't mean they beat themselves up unnecessarily or refuse to believe there are outside forces, acting on them. It just means they always take ownership and they thrive on the idea that they're the captain of their lives. So how do you fight against this and avoid falling victim to the world's greatest lie? Here are 3 tactics. Tactic 1, take some time and recognize the lies you might already be believing. We all have some that we're bought into. I mentioned a few earlier, like being labeled as non-creative, lazy, or a below-average athlete. To identify yours, I'd recommend talking with someone you trust or spend some time writing these down. But you need to identify these lies you're being into so you can start combating those. Tactic 2, go all in on growth mindset and embrace the idea that your successes and your failures are yours. Take ownership of your life and be the captain. It's always you. Own your actions. Tactic 3, never stop pursuing your full potential. People who believe the world's greatest lie, they take a knee. Be relentless in pursuing what you want and who you want to be. That's how you battle the world's greatest lie. That's all we got for today. If you enjoy the podcast, please subscribe, leave a review, and I'll see you back here next time on 5 Minute Mindset.